Hey guys, so almost every time that you see a Jeep build on the forums or on YouTube or whatever the case might be, it's almost always geared specifically toward off-road use. And it makes perfect sense. I mean, Jeep built their brand around this concept of traveling off pavement. And I like that too. I mean, certainly I like to go hit the trails and, go off-road and have fun. But this particular vehicle exists for a specific reason. And that's because there were a lot of people like me who love Jeeps, who want a Jeep, but need a truck. And like I've said many times before, this is not a Wrangler with a bed on it. They don't have a single part from the rear window back that is shared with the Wrangler on this truck. The frame, the suspension, the axle, the brakes, the materials used in the bed, tail lights. I mean, you could go on all day. Everything on this Gladiator is completely different from the Wrangler, from the rear glass back. And they built this specifically to have a lot more payload, a lot more towing capacity, and to be able to do work. You can do Jeep things with it. And I appreciate being able to take the top off, take the doors off, and do the Jeep stuff. But I needed a truck because I like to haul and tow things, and this is kind of perfect, especially now that they offer the diesel engine in it. So that's the whole idea behind the Gladiator. There's so much misinformation out there about it that it's not a real truck, you can't really do work with it. I'm telling you, if you saw my earlier videos with the other Gladiator I had, you should know that's not true, because I worked that truck pretty hard, and it did a fantastic job. And like I mentioned a little while ago, the suspension under this thing in the rear is eerily similar to what you would find on the Ram 1500. So it's no surprise that this thing is actually pretty rugged and pretty capable as a truck. So anyway, long way to get around to the point, which is that my build is going to be something a little different than what you normally see. I'm going to keep it kind of mild as far as the lift and the tires goes. And I'm going to focus more on building this thing to be a Swiss Army knife, if you want to call it that. It's going to be able to hit the trails, go anywhere I need to go, but at the same time, it's going to be able to haul really well, tow really well, and be useful as a truck. It's going to do everything really well. Just a nice, well-rounded build, if you will. So since it's summertime and we're going to be planning camping trips, I need to be able to pull my big trailer, my 8.5 by 24 enclosed, which fully loaded is around 6,000 pounds. Job number one is going to be getting this thing set up to handle the weight and to be able to tow safely. So this is going to be part one, getting it ready to tow. And here's what I'm thinking and what I'm probably going to start off with. So first step is I got to get this thing to where it won't sag under load, especially when I'm pulling the big trailer. And as a lot of you know, the Ram 1500 and the Jeep Gladiator are very similar in design in a lot of ways. One of those ways is the rear suspension. In fact, I think the control arms are even shared between the two. And the overall setup is eerily similar. So just out of curiosity, I decided to, put that Timbren suspension enhancement system on the Ram. If you've been following the channel, you saw that video, and they worked fantastic. Well, I kept them when I sold the Ram. I've been trying to sell them and haven't had any luck, so just for kicks and giggles, I decided to put them on the Jeep and see if they fit. And sure enough, they fit perfect. So I took the factory bump stops out and put the Timbrens in there. See if I can get a zoom in look here. So right up there is the Timbren, and you can see the spring perch right there. So I measured the distance, and I've got about 1.5 inches, maybe just a hair over 1.5 inches, which is exactly where you want them, and they fit into the bump stop provisions up there perfectly. So it looks like the Timbren kit for the Ram 1500 is going to work just perfect on the Jeep Gladiator as well. Now those obviously are a little bit longer than the factory ones, and the whole purpose of them is that when you put a heavy load in the truck, they make contact with that spring perch, and they're made out of a very special rubber compound that acts like a progressive spring under there. So if you haven't seen those before, It's better than airbags in my opinion because there's zero maintenance. You don't have to run lines or compressors. You don't have to worry, about puncturing one of them if you're off-road. It's absolutely a worry-free solution. Since they're not resting on the spring purchase or the bump stop purchase, that means that your factory ride quality is still going to be there. If you hit a really bad dip in the road or a really bad pothole, they'll probably make contact and you'll feel a thud. But for the most part, your factory ride quality is still going to be there. But then when you put a heavy load in the truck or hook up a big trailer, those things will take up the slack and prevent the truck from, there's 1.5 inches of gap there, so the truck's going to sag 1.5 inches, and then that's going to be it. After that, the rubber overload springs will take over and do their job and really soak up the bumps with the weight on the truck. The Ram rode like a Cadillac with a big trailer behind it. Just fantastic ride quality and control. So anyway, it looks like the Timbrens are going to work out great on the Gladiator. So I guess I'll just use those on here. And I still have the weight distribution hitch coming, and I'll show you in detail which one I went with and why when it's delivered. But I'm still thinking about using that with the trailer also. Can't hurt to do so because it will also provide the benefit of controlling sway as well. So with those two items on this truck, I should be able to tow my big trailer with no problems at all. Not really worried about it, to be honest. I think it's going to be just fine. And then the second part is being able to see around the trailer, or at least see well enough to make lane changes. And surprisingly, when I hooked the trailer up to this truck the other day, as bad as I hate these mirrors, I still hate these mirrors. I still wish that Jeep would have given us proper mirrors for a pickup truck instead of being lazy and putting the same ones from the Wrangler on the Gladiator. Anyway, these actually didn't do a terrible job. I can still see around the trailer plenty well enough to make safe lane changes. Even on the Ram, I couldn't see behind the trailer. It had the great big elongated mirrors, and it was a much wider truck. But even still, I couldn't see behind the trailer. So these really are no different than the Ram as far as how much I can see. But I did go ahead and order the Thorn Engineering adapters and the Rampage JK mirror extensions. I'm going to put those two together. A lot of guys are doing that on the forums and they're having good success with it. And it looks, pretty decent as well. So I did go ahead and order some of those that I'll be putting on here. Again, the more visibility, the better, right? So I've got the sag under control. I've got sway under control. I've got visibility under control. That just leaves one remaining piece to this puzzle, and that is some kind of a way to control the brakes on the trailer. Now, you probably saw that on the last Jeep Gladiator that I had, I did a full install on a Red Arc Tow Pro Elite kit, which is the one that has the knob that you can mount anywhere in the cab that you want, and then the brains of the unit is back behind the dash out of sight. And it's certainly a fine way to go if you want to do that. There's lots of different options on the market if you want to do a permanent and hard installation inside your Gladiator. But the problem with the Gladiator has always been interior space. If you look in here, there's really just not much room to mount stuff like that. I ended up putting my Red Arc control knob like right over here in this area. It was basically one of the only areas I could find to put it. These dashes and consoles are so small that there's just really not much space to put it. And the thought of going through that process of disassembling the dash, trying to mount all this stuff up under there, drilling holes in the dash for the knob, I was kind of reluctant to do that. I don't really want to go through that again. And this one has more options than the other one I had. My last Gladiator was a Sport, so it didn't have as many of the modules and boxes and things up under the dash. I pulled that cover off under the steering wheel the other day. This one has all kinds of modules and wires and everything up under there. So it would be even harder on this Jeep to find a place to mount all that. So I started looking around to see what other options are there. And I found this little guy right here, and this has been out on the market for a few years. It's not brand new. You may have already seen it. But this is made by Kurt, and it's called the Echo. And basically what this does is it plugs into your trailer receptacle down here, and then your trailer wiring plugs into the other end, and this whole unit is it. That's all there is to it. And what it does is it transmits a Bluetooth signal wirelessly to your smartphone. So you just simply download the Kurt app, and you can use your smartphone up in the truck to make settings for your trailer brake gain. You can use the emergency brake function. You know, I guess it basically works like any other brake controller, but there's nothing to install in the cab. And if this works like they say it does, it'll be perfect for guys like us, because, you know, I don't tow the big trailer very often, maybe, you know, 2 or 3 times a year maybe. So, you know, something like this is going to be no problem just to hook up real quick 2 or 3 times a year. And secondly, you know, it saves you all the hassle of having to install stuff, you know, in your cab. So I'm going to try this out and see how it works and see if it works the way that it's supposed to. Now, when I first saw these, I actually saw these back when I had the other Gladiator, but I passed over it because, I mean, you can see the picture there. Once you install it on the back of the truck and then you hook your wiring up from the trailer, you've got a really long piece sticking out there, which is going to put a lot of leverage on your receptacle. And I just worried about that maybe coming loose or falling out on the way down the road. And there were some reviews that said that that actually happened to people. But what I've noticed is that Kurt now gives you a rubber strap with this, and it should be in the package here with it. And so basically when you plug this up, it's got a rubber strap that you can put around here, and you basically, you know, so you lift your lid up, you plug that in, and then the rubber strap goes around the lid and the unit. And so it holds it in place and prevents it from being able to fall out. So just a simple little solution to a problem. But anyway, I'm going to try this out, and hopefully it's going to work just fine. I'm kind of excited about it because it's an easy, you know, solution. Yeah, so with all of those things under control, I feel like I'm ready to go. I mean, I have no concerns at all. I mean, these trucks, like I said, they actually do a better job than they're given credit for towing and working anyway. So with these additional items that I didn't have on my last Gladiator, I should be good to go, no sweat. Now, like I said, I'm still waiting on the distribution hitch to get here. So, you know, I might kind of finish up this video on the next video and kind of show you that stuff. But that's kind of an overview of how I'm going to attack this problem and make the Gladiator into a towing beast. Now, you still have to stay within spec. Obviously, you know, if you look in your manual, you've got gross trailer weight, you've got payload and tongue weight you have to think of, axle weight ratings, the whole 9 yards. You've also got a maximum frontal surface area on the trailer or the camper that you're towing that you have to adhere to as well. So you still have to stay in spec or as close to it as you can. You don't want to really overload any truck. But these things that I'm doing are just going to make it so much easier and safer to do the job. So thanks for watching, and like I said, stick around and we'll catch up on the rest of this next time.